The signal came from the edge of the galaxy, faint at first, almost lost in the cosmic noise that filled space, but gradually it grew stronger, pulsing with a rhythm that was impossible to ignore. At first, scientists thought it was just another cosmic anomaly, perhaps a malfunctioning probe or some natural occurrence, but as they examined the pattern, it became clear that this was something different. This was intelligent. The coordinates embedded in the signal led to a location beyond known space, a vast stretch of emptiness where no human ship had ever ventured before, an area so remote that it was not even on most star charts. The decision was made quickly. A ship would be sent to investigate the source of the signal, a deep space exploration vessel named the Astreus. The crew consisted of the best and brightest humanity, had to offer a mixture of scientists, engineers, and military personnel, all chosen for their skill and resourcefulness. As they set off into the unknown, the excitement was palpable. The possibility of discovering something truly alien sent a thrill through each of them, but none of them could have anticipated what lay ahead. Days turned into weeks as the Astreus journeyed deeper into the uncharted void of space. The crew worked tirelessly to decode the signal, but it remained an enigma. Their advanced computers could only identify patterns that hinted at some form of message, but the true meaning was elusive. The sense of isolation grew as the vast emptiness around them seemed to stretch on without end. But then, just as they were beginning to doubt their mission, a breakthrough came. A massive object appeared in the distance, a hulking wreck floating in the vacuum of space. It was enormous, far larger than any human-made vessel. The surface was marked with symbols and strange carvings that none of the crew recognized. They were unlike anything seen before. No civilization known to Earth had ever left such markings. The wreck was ancient, its exterior battered and torn, as though it had been in some kind of violent conflict. Yet there was a strange beauty to it, a sense of mystery that tugged at the very core of those who gazed upon it. As the Astreus approached the wreckage, the crew marveled at its complexity. The hull was made of an unknown material that defied every attempt to analyze it with Earth technology. It shimmered in the light of distant stars, casting odd reflections across the ship's surface. It looked almost alive, as if it were breathing slowly and methodically. But the strangest part was the energy field surrounding the wreckage, a faint blue glow that pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. It was unlike any energy signature they had ever encountered, and as they got closer it became clear that the ship was not dead, it was waiting. The captain of the Astreus, Commander Amelia Devereux, ordered the team to prepare for a boarding mission. They would enter the wreckage and investigate its interior. They had no idea what they would find, but there was no turning back now. As the docking clamps locked into place and the airlock hissed open, they stepped into the unknown. A cold chill ran through the crew as they crossed the threshold of the alien ship, unsure of what awaited them inside. And then it happened. The moment they breached the wreckage, the ship's systems came alive. The energy field flared brighter. The walls seemed to pulse with life, and deep within the wreckage, something stirred. Inside the wreckage, the crew moved cautiously through the darkened halls, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The walls were lined with strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as they passed, almost as if the ship itself was alive, reacting to their presence. Commander Devereux led the way, her hand steady on the pulse rifle she carried, though no one knew what dangers lay ahead. The air was thick with the scent of decay, a faint metallic odor that clung to everything. They had no idea how long the ship had been abandoned, but it was clear that it had seen better days. Sections of the hull were cracked and battered, likely from some violent confrontation or catastrophic event. But despite the damage, the ship's interior was surprisingly intact. As they ventured deeper, they discovered what appeared to be a central chamber, a vast room with a domed ceiling that stretched high above them. In the center of the room was a strange altar-like structure, surrounded by intricate machinery and panels that flickered with weak, intermittent power. On the altar lay an object, a crystalline core, glowing faintly with an unnatural energy. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a perfect sphere of smooth, reflective material that hummed with a strange resonance. The crew stood frozen in awe, staring at the object, unable to comprehend its purpose or origin. It was as if the entire ship had been designed to protect this one artifact, and now that they had found it, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Dr. Eliza Hargrave, the lead scientist aboard the Astraeus stepped forward first, her eyes locked on the crystal. She had always prided herself on her ability to solve mysteries, to understand the unknown. But this was different. She reached out, her gloved hand hovering inches above the core, feeling the energy pulse beneath her fingertips. Something in the back of her mind screamed for her to pull away, but curiosity won out. As her fingers made contact with the surface of the crystal, a jolt of energy shot through her body, sending a shockwave of sensation coursing through her veins. The room around her seemed to warp and shift, and for a brief moment, she saw flashes of what appeared to be distant stars, worlds being consumed by fire, ships falling from the sky, civilizations burning in a flash of light. The vision was gone in an instant, leaving her gasping for breath. She stumbled back, her heart racing, but the crystal remained unchanged. The crew gathered around her, concern etched on their faces. "What happened?" asked Lieutenant Aaron Rhodes, his voice sharp with worry. Eliza shook her head, trying to gather her thoughts. I saw something. It was like a vision, but it was a warning. Something terrible is coming. The words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Commander Devereux took a step forward, her gaze fixed on the crystal. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice low. Eliza hesitated before speaking again. "The crystal. It's a message. It's from a civilization that was destroyed. A warning to anyone who finds this ship." Before anyone could respond, the ship's systems flickered again, and the sound of distant machinery whirring to life filled the air. The lights in the chamber brightened, and the walls seemed to hum with energy. The core in the center of the room pulsed once more, brighter this time, and a low, vibrating hum began to emanate from it. It was as if the wreckage itself was waking up, responding to the presence of the humans. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Something was happening, something they couldn't yet understand. But one thing was certain: their discovery had only just begun, and whatever lay ahead would change everything. The universe was not as it seemed, and Earth had just become part of something far bigger and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The atmosphere aboard the Astraeus was tense, the crew still processing what they had just experienced. The crystal, now resting within a containment unit, emitted a low, steady hum that seemed to resonate deep in their bones. Eliza's encounter with the artifact had left her shaken, her mind replaying the vision over and over. It wasn't just a vision. It was a warning, a glimpse into something far beyond their understanding. But who had left the message, and why had it been hidden away in the wreckage of a destroyed ship? The answers seemed just beyond their grasp, tantalizing but unreachable. Back in the ship's command center, Commander Devereux gathered the crew for a debrief. "We need to figure out what this is," she said, her tone sharp but controlled. "Eliza, can you make sense of what you saw? Is there any way we can interpret it?" Eliza shook her head, her eyes distant. "I'm not sure. It was overwhelming. I saw fire, destruction, planets burning. But there was something more, something hidden beneath the chaos. A voice, a warning. It was like the destruction of entire civilizations was inevitable. The crystal, I think, was the key to stopping it." "That doesn't make sense," Lieutenant Rhodes interjected. "If it's a warning, why would it be hidden away in a wrecked ship? It could have been destroyed along with everything else." "I'm not sure," Eliza replied. "But the one thing I do know is that the civilization that created this technology, whatever happened to them, it wasn't just random. It was something deliberate, something targeting them." Devereux's eyes narrowed. "So you're saying whatever destroyed this civilization is coming for us too?" Eliza nodded slowly, her face pale. "I'm afraid so." Suddenly, the ship shuddered, throwing the crew off balance. The lights flickered and alarms blared, echoing through the hull of the Astraeus asterisk. "What the hell is happening?" Rhodes shouted as he rushed to the control panel. "Unknown energy surge detected," came the voice of the ship's eye. "It's coming from the artifact. We have a problem." Before anyone could respond, a bright flash of light filled the room. The crystal began to glow with an intensity that was almost blinding. And then, without warning, the ship's systems locked down, and the walls around them began to pulse. The hum became a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to shake the very foundation of the Astraeus asterisk. Devereaux's heart raced. "Get to the containment chamber, now." The crew rushed down the narrow hallways, trying to make sense of what was happening. As they reached the containment chamber, they found the crystal floating within its protective case, spinning slowly in midair, surrounded by a brilliant blue light. The air was thick with energy, and the hum had become deafening. "What is this?" Elisa breathed, staring in awe. The ship's eye spoke again, its voice cold and mechanical. "Artifact activation detected. Unknown protocols initiated. Entity identified within the crystal." Devereaux's pulse quickened. Entity. Before the AI could elaborate, the crystal's glow intensified, and a voice filled the air. It was deep, ancient, and tinged with sorrow. "You are too late," it intoned. "The reckoning is upon you." The crew froze, eyes wide. The voice continued, its tone filled with an undeniable sense of urgency. "You have unlocked the path, and now you must face the consequences. The destroyers are coming. They will not stop until you are all erased." The crew exchanged horrified glances. The warnings had been clear, but the reality was now sinking in. Something was coming, a force that had already wiped out countless civilizations, and Earth had just unknowingly triggered its next target. "Who are you?" Elisa asked, her voice trembling. The entity's response was chilling. "We were the last to fall. You are the next. The destroyers come for all who awaken the power. The cycle continues." The crystal pulsed once more, and the room was filled with a deafening silence. Then the lights flickered out, and the ship lurched violently, as if something immense had passed nearby. The crew was left standing in the dark, realizing that their discovery had unleashed something far worse than they could have ever imagined. The galaxy wasn't a peaceful place. It was a battlefield, and Earth was now caught in the crossfire. The silence in the containment chamber was suffocating. The voice of the entity echoed in the minds of the crew, its warning hanging heavily in the air. Commander Devereaux felt the weight of it pressing down on her, a cold realization creeping over her. The destroyers were coming. They had no idea who or what the destroyers were, but the fear in the entity's voice was undeniable. They had awakened something, and now they would have to face the consequences. "What just happened?" Lieutenant Rhodes asked, his voice trembling. "What the hell did we just trigger?" Devereaux shook her head, her mind racing. She could feel the ship's systems failing as the energy from the crystal surged through the hull, destabilizing everything. The hum from the artifact had now turned into an almost unbearable thrum, vibrating through the walls of the Astraeus asterisk. It was as if the ship itself was alive, reacting to the entity's presence. Elisa, still reeling from her earlier experience, took a shaky breath. It's a warning. The destroyers are not just some enemy force. They are something else, something ancient. They come for anyone who dares to tap into powers they shouldn't. Devereaux's mind was working quickly. "We need to get this crystal out of here. We don't know what kind of signal it's sending out, but whatever it is, it's not good." "Agreed," Rhodes said, glancing nervously at the glowing artifact. "But how do we stop it? The ship's systems are going haywire. We can't just shut it down without knowing more." "We don't have time for that," Devereaux snapped, her voice steady despite the chaos. "If this thing is sending out a signal, the aliens are probably already on their way. We need to get back to Earth and report everything we've learned." But as she spoke, the ship lurched again, more violently this time. The walls trembled, and the floor beneath their feet seemed to pulse with an ominous energy. The A's voice crackled through the intercom, sounding panicked. Warning, unknown vessel approaching. Massive energy signatures detected. It's coming in fast. The crew exchanged horrified glances. It was happening. The destroyers, or whatever they were already here. Devereaux's mind raced. Prepare for immediate departure. Get us back to Earth now, she ordered, her voice sharp and commanding. The crew scrambled to their stations, but it was already too late. The ship's sensors began to pick up an incoming fleet, dozens of massive warships appearing from the dark expanse of space, moving faster than any human-made vessel should be able to. Their designs were unfamiliar, sleek and predatory. Their energy signatures unlike anything the Astrea's had encountered before. Eliza, can you shut down the crystal? Rhodes asked urgently, tapping at the control panel. I don't think that's possible, Eliza replied, her voice tight. The artifact seems to be linked to the ship's core systems. If we try to cut it off, we risk destabilizing everything. Then we'll have to fight, Devereaux said, her voice resolute. Prepare for battle stations. We need to hold off whatever's coming until we can find a way to neutralize this threat. But even as she gave the orders, the realization dawned on her. They were outmatched. The Astrea's was not a warship, it was a research vessel, and they were about to face an enemy far more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. Their only advantage was the alien wreckage they had brought back, and even that was turning out to be a double-edged sword. The energy readings from the incoming fleet grew more intense, and soon, the vast silhouettes of the alien ships appeared on the monitors, their dark forms filling the viewports. They were closing in fast, weapons systems primed. The entity's voice suddenly filled the room again, as if it had anticipated the attack. It is too late. The cycle cannot be stopped. The destroyers come for all who awaken the power. Devereaux clenched her fists. Then we'll make them regret it. All of humanity is ready to fight. We may not have the technology they do, but we have something they don't. The will to survive. The ship's crew braced themselves. There was no turning back now. The Astrea's was caught in a deadly race against time, fighting against a foe they could barely comprehend, armed with a mysterious power that could either save them or doom them. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin, and it would be a fight like no other. The tension aboard the Astrea's was palpable as the looming alien fleet drew closer, its dark forms now visible on every screen. The crew's every move felt frantic, as if the ship itself was aware of the impending doom. Commander Devereaux stood at the helm, her face hard and unyielding, while the rest of the crew worked tirelessly at their stations, preparing for what they knew could be their last stand. The energy signature from the alien ships was unlike anything they had ever seen. Massive, powerful, and filled with a chilling sense of purpose. The destroyers were here, and there was no time to waste. We need to get out of here, Lieutenant Rhodes said, his voice tight as he scanned the rapidly approaching ships. We're outmatched. Even with the Astrea's full power, we won't stand a chance. Devereaux clenched her jaw, her mind racing. We're not running. We're fighting. Eliza, still shaken from her earlier encounter with the artifact, looked at the glowing crystal, her eyes filled with unease. The crystal. It's not just a weapon, is it? It's a beacon. It's calling them. Devereaux nodded. We don't know what kind of damage we can do, but we can't just sit here and wait to be destroyed. If the crystal can be weaponized, it's our only hope. We need to figure out how to use it, and fast. As if in response to their conversation, the ship's eye suddenly spoke, its voice tinged with urgency. Alien fleet now entering firing range. Energy shields failing. Recommended course of action. Immediate evasive maneuvers. Devereaux's heart skipped a beat. The ship's shields were already failing. They hadn't even fired a shot yet. The alien ships, moving with unnerving precision, were closing in. Their weapons systems were powering up, and the unmistakable red glow of energy beams flickered across the exterior of the Astreus. "Prepare for impact," Devereux ordered, her voice cold as steel. "Activate every defense we've got." The crew scrambled to respond, but the alien ships were too fast. The first blast hit the Astreus with a deafening roar, throwing the crew off their feet. Sparks flew from the consoles, and the entire ship shuddered as its outer hull was torn apart by the force of the blast. Alarms blared across the ship as the damage reports flooded in, but Devereux didn't hesitate. "Return fire," she shouted. "We fight back, no matter the cost." The crew fired back with everything they had, but it was clear their weapons were far inferior to those of the incoming fleet. Each shot that hit their target seemed to do little more than scratch the surface of the massive alien warships. The Astreus rocked again, and a second blast from the alien fleet breached the outer layers of their hull, sending shockwaves through the ship. As the crew scrambled to hold things together, Devereux's mind raced. They couldn't keep this up. They needed something more, something powerful, something that could turn the tide. And then it hit her. The crystal. "Get me a direct line to the containment chamber," she ordered. "We're going to use it." Eliza was already working frantically to understand the alien technology embedded in the crystal. She had been studying it ever since their discovery, but it was like nothing they had ever encountered. There was a power within the crystal, an immense, untapped energy, but they had no idea how to access it without risking total destruction. "Commander, I'm not sure how to control it," Eliza said, panic creeping into her voice. "This crystal, it's alive. It's sentient, and its energy is unlike anything we've ever seen. If we activate it, we might overload the entire ship." "We don't have a choice," Devereux said, her tone hard with resolve. "Do it. Activate it now." Reluctantly, Eliza pressed a sequence of buttons on her console, her hands trembling. The crystal's hum grew louder, almost deafening, as if it were responding to her command. For a moment, the ship seemed to vibrate with energy, the walls and floors trembling as though the very fabric of space was bending. And then, in a flash of blinding light, a beam of energy erupted from the artifact, shooting out into the heart of the alien fleet. The power that surged from the crystal was beyond anything they had imagined. The beam of energy was so intense that it pierced the lead alien warship's shields as though they weren't even there. The ship's surface exploded in a fiery burst, disintegrating in a matter of seconds. The other ships hesitated, momentarily stunned by the sheer power that had just been unleashed. But the battle wasn't over. The remaining alien ships regrouped, their weapons already primed, ready to retaliate. Devereux gripped the console tightly. "We've made them bleed. Now we finish this." The Astreus was still alive, but the fight was far from over. The battle for Earth's survival had only just begun. The alien fleet recoiled for a moment, stunned by the overwhelming power of the crystal's beam. For a brief second, it felt like the Astreus had seized an advantage. But Devereux knew better. The remaining ships were not deterred. They'd regrouped quickly, their alien energy shields flickering back to life, and they fired back with deadly precision. The Astreus shuddered under the barrage, its hull groaning as the impacts reverberated throughout the ship. Alarms screamed in every corner of the vessel, and the crew fought desperately to stay on their feet. "Damage report," Devereux barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We've lost external communications," Lieutenant Rhodes yelled, his hands flying over the control panel. "Hull integrity is at 65%. We're barely holding on." Eliza's eyes were fixed on the containment chamber, where the crystal still pulsed with the energy it had unleashed. "We can't keep this up much longer," she said, her voice strained. "The ship's systems are beginning to collapse. The energy from the crystal is destabilizing everything. Then we need to make it count. Devereux replied, determination in her voice. Eliza, can we direct that power? Can we use it to wipe them out? Eliza shook her head, her face pale. I don't know. The crystal's energy isn't something we can control. It reacts to whatever is closest, whatever it deems as a threat. If we use it again, it could burn us all. We don't have a choice, Devereux said firmly. We're out of time. The ship shook again as another volley from the alien ships hit them, knocking out several systems. The lights flickered ominously, and the once pristine control panels now looked like war-torn remnants of a once operational ship. The *Astreus* was taking on water, and it was only a matter of time before it wouldn't be able to take much more. But just as the crew braced for the worst, something unexpected happened. A low guttural hum filled the ship's interior, emanating from the direction of the containment chamber. The crystal began to pulse with an almost rhythmic energy, the light growing brighter and more erratic. Then, without warning, it sent another wave of energy through the *Astreus*, but this time it was different. The ship's systems seemed to respond. Lights flickered back on, damaged consoles rebooted, and the shaking of the ship lessened. The crystal's power had stabilized, but the alien ships were still closing in. We've got a new problem, Rhodes said, pointing to the radar screen. Another ship just dropped out of hyperspace. It's massive, way bigger than the others. Devereux's heart sank. The fleet had just been reinforced. The new arrival was like a living nightmare, a hulking, massive warship that dwarfed the rest of the alien vessels. Its design was even more alien, almost organic, as though it had grown from the very fabric of space. The energy signature it radiated was almost suffocating, and it was heading straight for them. We can't take on something that big, Rhodes said, his voice filled with fear. We need to retreat. No, Devereux replied, her face grim. We fight. We hold them off. If we run, they'll destroy Earth without hesitation. Commander, we can't. Just do your job, Lieutenant. Devereux snapped, turning toward the controls. We've got one shot at this. If we don't make it count, it's all over. A determined silence filled the room. The crew understood the gravity of the situation now. This was not a battle for survival. It was a battle for the future of humanity. They couldn't afford to back down. Eliza looked at the crystal, her mind racing for any way to harness its power without completely destroying them. It was alive. She could feel it. The energy that flowed from it was boundless, chaotic, but also focused on survival. The alien ships continued their advance, and Devereux gave the order to fire again, this time aiming all their weapons at the massive warship. The first shots barely made a dent, but it didn't matter. They had one last card to play. Eliza, Devereux shouted. Now, use the crystal. With trembling hands, Eliza activated the crystal's energy core, sending a massive pulse of energy straight toward the approaching alien fleet. The crystal responded with an almost visceral force, amplifying the pulse until it was no longer just a beam. It was a massive shockwave that rippled through space itself. The shockwave hit the alien fleet with unimaginable force, disintegrating smaller ships in an instant and leaving the massive warship staggering. It cracked, its hull buckling under the pressure, and the remaining fleet hesitated, momentarily disoriented by the sheer power. But it wasn't enough. The warship was still alive. The true battle had only just begun. Get us out of here, Devereux shouted, realizing that the only way to survive now was to run. But the crystal had already drained most of their energy. And as the enemy regrouped, preparing to launch a final assault, the *Astreus* was left with only one option: to make a stand or be destroyed. The fate of humanity rested in their hands. The *Astreus* shuddered under the strain of the damage as the crew scrambled to assess the consequences of their desperate shot. The shockwave from the crystal had disintegrated the smaller alien ships, but the massive warship was still intact, its hull cracked but not defeated. The crew could see the dark silhouette of the ship through the viewports, its weapon systems now locked onto their position. Every sensor screamed a warning, and yet the alien fleet held back for just a moment, as if analyzing the Astreus asterisk, the last obstacle before they wiped humanity from existence. "We're running out of time," Lieutenant Rhodes said, his voice filled with urgency as he monitored the energy levels. "The crystal drained a huge portion of our power. We won't be able to fire again unless we get more energy, and even then, it might not be enough to stop that thing." "We don't have the luxury of running," Devereaux snapped. She gripped the armrests of her seat as if her will alone could steady the ship. "We'll keep firing until the Astreus asterisk falls apart or they retreat." But deep inside, Devereaux knew she was lying to herself. There was no way the Astreus asterisk could withstand another full barrage from the alien warship. Their only hope was the crystal, the unpredictable alien artifact that had both saved them and placed them in this situation. The energy it released had only provided them a temporary edge, but they were out of options. Without its power, the ship was a sitting target, a speck in the vastness of space. "Eliza," Devereaux called, her voice steady despite the fear that was slowly creeping in. "Is there any way we can tap into the crystal's power more effectively? We need more of it, and we need it now." Eliza was at the console, her eyes flicking over the data at a frantic pace. "I don't know," she replied, her voice strained. "The crystal responds to the danger around it, but it's not something we can control like a weapon. It's sentient. It has its own awareness. And right now, it's reacting to the threat, just like us." Devereaux's eyes narrowed. "So you're saying it won't just give us power because we ask for it?" "It's not that simple," Eliza said. "The crystal is alive, and it's only giving us as much power as it deems necessary. If it senses that we're still in danger, it will keep giving. But if it senses that we're not in control, it could destabilize everything." Rhodes cursed. "Great, so we have to gamble with the fate of the entire ship on the hope that this thing decides it likes us." Eliza's hands trembled as she continued to work the console, the tension building in the room. The alien warship, though damaged, was preparing another attack. Its massive cannons were charging up, a sickening red glow filling the viewport. They had mere minutes before the final strike would destroy them. Devereaux stood, her decision already made. "We have no choice. Eliza, I need you to try again. This time, don't just push the crystal to give us power. Make it understand that it's a choice. We're not its enemies." Eliza looked up from the console, her expression torn between fear and resolve. She nodded, though she couldn't hide the tremor in her voice. "All right. I'll try." She reached for the controls, her hand steadying as she touched the crystal's interface. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the hull of the ship. Eliza closed her eyes, focusing, trying to reach the consciousness within the crystal. She felt its power again, this time not as a burst of raw energy, but as an awareness, a presence that she could almost touch. "I need you to listen," Eliza whispered. "We're not your enemies. We're not the ones who caused your destruction. Please, help us." The crystal pulsed in response, its energy fluctuating like a heartbeat, stronger, more deliberate. Eliza could feel its resistance, but also its curiosity. It wasn't like any weapon. It was as if it was evaluating her words, considering its own existence. She pushed harder, focusing all her energy into making the crystal understand. Devereaux held her breath as the seconds ticked by. The warship's cannons were fully charged, and the enemy fleet was now ready to unleash hell. Suddenly, the crystal flared to life once again, its light blinding and pure. A surge of power flooded the ship, and for a moment, Eliza's heart stopped. The entire Astreus asterisk was bathed in energy, light coursing through the walls, the engines humming to life, the shields reinforcing with an intensity they had never seen before. "Now," Devereaux shouted. The crew quickly shifted into action. With renewed power, the Astreus fired once more, but this time it was different. The beam of energy was no longer just a weapon. It was a concentrated burst of the crystal's full might. The blast struck the massive alien warship directly in the core, exploding in a brilliant flash that momentarily blinded the crew. The warship's shields cracked, and the hull disintegrated, sending fragments scattering across the void. But the remaining fleet wasn't done. They regrouped, preparing to launch their final assault. "We've taken down their flagship, but there's more coming," Rhodes said grimly. "What now?" "We keep fighting," Devereaux said, her voice unshaken. "The crystal has helped us, but this war isn't over. We've just struck the first blow. Now we finish it." The Astreus was battered, its energy reserves low, but its crew was more determined than ever. The final showdown for humanity's future had begun. The remaining alien fleet, though stunned by the destruction of their flagship, was far from defeated. Their ships, though smaller now, continued to press the attack, closing in on the Astreus with a chilling determination. The massive warship they had just destroyed had been their command center, and with it gone, the remaining fleet's tactics became more erratic, but no less deadly. Devereaux's eyes narrowed as she stared at the redouts, calculating their dwindling chances. The crystal had given them a fleeting victory, but they were now dangerously close to running out of power. The Astreus systems, though temporarily reinvigorated, were starting to falter again, the ship's engines flickering as energy reserves were pushed to the limit. "We need to finish them off before they regroup," Devereaux said, her voice tight with urgency. "Rhodes, keep the weapons firing. Eliza, find a way to tap into more of that power from the crystal. We don't have time to wait for it to decide it likes us again." Eliza nodded, but her hands trembled as she returned to the console. The crystal had given them more power than they had ever thought possible, but it was a fickle source, responding to threats but unwilling to be fully controlled. She had no idea how much more they could draw from it without pushing it beyond its limits. But they had no choice now. Every second counted. "I'll try," Eliza said, her voice strained. "But I can't promise anything. The crystal's power is unpredictable." Another volley of fire from the alien ships rocked the Astreus, and Devereaux's grip tightened on her chair. "Do what you can. We can't afford to hesitate." The remaining enemy ships, seemingly fueled by desperation, moved in to strike the Astreus from all sides. Their weapons lit up the darkness of space, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if the crew's luck had run out. The Astreus shields flared up, barely holding against the Wreckage. Then, with a surge of determination, the crystal's energy flared once more, and Eliza felt it. This time, the crystal wasn't just responding to danger. It was amplifying the Astreus's own systems, directing power not only to the shields but also to the weapon systems. "Commander, the crystal, it's doing something," Eliza shouted. "It's sending more power to the weapons. We can attack again, with everything we've got." "Then fire everything," Devereaux commanded, her voice sharp. The Astreus's main cannons roared to life, the power from the crystal coursing through them. This time, the energy wasn't just a pulse. It was a sustained beam that cut through the darkness of space, slashing through the alien ships like a knife through butter. One after another, the remaining vessels erupted into violent bursts of light as the concentrated energy tore through their shields and ripped apart their hulls. The crystal's power amplified every shot, turning the Astreus into a weapon of unimaginable force. But even as the alien ships began to disintegrate, the remaining few fought back, firing their own deadly blasts. A direct hit to the Astreus's outer hull sent the ship spiraling off course, and the crew was thrown forward from the sudden jolt. Sparks flew from the console, and the lights flickered as the ship fought to stabilize itself. "Damage report," Devereaux shouted, struggling to maintain control. "We've lost more of our external hull," Rhodes said, his voice tight with panic. "The power's fluctuating, and I'm losing control of the steering." Eliza's face was pale, but her eyes were focused. "I'm trying to stabilize the crystal's output," she said, working frantically. "We're not out of this yet. We can still." But she was cut off as another blast from the alien ships struck the Astrea's asterisk, sending the ship spiraling further off course. This time, the feedback from the crystal was far too intense. It overloaded the systems entirely. "No," Eliza cried, trying desperately to regain control. "Not now." And then, as if answering her call, the crystal flared again. But this time, there was no warning. The pulse of energy sent the entire ship reeling, and in that blinding flash, everything went still. For a moment, the crew felt as if time itself had stopped. The ship's systems hummed with an eerie calm, and all the damage seemed to vanish. The Astrea's asterisk had somehow managed to escape the death grip of the alien fleet, and it was no longer on a collision course. In the eerie quiet that followed, Devereux realized what had happened. The crystal had not just stabilized the ship, it had somehow pushed them into another dimension, or at least a state of suspended time. We're safe," Rhodes asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "For now," Devereux said, staring out at the void. The alien fleet was gone, but she knew this was not the end. The crystal's power had saved them, but it had done so at a price. Eliza staggered back from the console, sweat beading on her forehead. It did something else," she said, her voice trembling. "It didn't just shield us. It sent us somewhere. We're not in normal space anymore." Devereux's heart sank. "What does that mean for us?" "It means," Eliza said, her eyes wide with realization, "we're no longer in the fight we thought we were. The war has just entered a whole new stage." The crew stared into the vast unknown, knowing that whatever lay ahead was far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. They had escaped the alien fleet, but the true nature of the crystal and the forces it had unleashed were only just beginning to reveal themselves. And as Devereux looked out into the uncharted darkness of space, she understood one thing. The future of humanity was uncertain, but the fight for survival had just become far more complicated.